In this week's edition, the Senate inquiry into the proposed student visa cap legislation reveals some bombshell moments, how student visa appeals are skyrocketing out of control, and what has happened to Direction 109. Hi, I'm Karl Konrad and welcome to our weekly edition of Australian Immigration News. It's good to be back after a week of holiday on the road. This program is proudly brought to you by Australian Immigration Law Services, the company I founded 26 years ago right here in the heart of Sydney. This week's Senate inquiry into the proposed legislation to cap student visa numbers in Australia has revealed some bombshell moments. First, it showed that the Treasury Department did no modelling and did not expect a single job loss would come as a result of this proposed bill, and the Education Ministry did not consult with a single education provider in coming up with the student visa cap formula, and the purpose of the bill contradicts the Minister's public media comments. Is this new student visa cap legislation a method to reduce migration or to regulate quality and integrity? It seems the bureaucrats in the Education Ministries are not so sure, but its head minister Jason Clare is quite emphatic about its purpose. Recently on Channel 7's Sunrise program, the minister came out publicly and said, "Well, immigration is too high, we've got to bring it down. Part of how we do it is putting a cap on the number of international students. That's what I'm doing. I've introduced legislation into the Parliament to put a lid on that, to put a cap on the number of international students." However, this week during the Senate inquiry, senior public servants within the Education Department were saying something different when asked, is this a cap on migration? They said the formula of giving cap numbers is premised on the policy and principles which are about quality and integrity. So if it really is about quality and integrity, and after all the bill is called the Education Services for Overseas Students Amendment Quality and Integrity Bill 2024, why is the Minister promoting it as a tool to reduce migration numbers? How does the government measure an institution's quality and integrity to decide on the number of international students it can have? These are exactly the questions the Senate inquiry held by the Education and Employment Senate Committee was searching for during the week. It's a shame we don't have video of the inquiry, so we will have to read from the Hansard records these questions that came up on Wednesday during the inquiry. First, the Treasury Department was grilled. They were asked by Senator Faruqi,
"Have you looked at the job losses that will be incurred if this bill passes and the impact of those? We have heard from universities and tens of thousands of job losses. We have heard from private providers. They are closing down already, and one in particular that was here today has closed down its regional operation. We have heard that families will be decimated. Is it not the responsibility of the Treasury to actually look at those very real-life impacts? How can we pass a bill when we don't know these impacts?"
The Treasury replied, "We do not see any impacts of this bill from a macroeconomic sense, and we do not expect any job losses as a result of this bill." To this, Senator Faruqi exploded and said,
"So you think universities are lying and everyone who has given evidence to us over the last 4 days is lying?"
Of course, there was no coherent response from Treasury on that one. Then later came the Education Department's representatives for their turn to be grilled. From Senator Faruqi,
"And the bill is titled as Quality and Integrity Amendment Bill. How does the formula used to take into account a provider's track record of quality?"
To which the Education Ministry replied, "If a provider has grown by many thousands of students in 1 year, it's hard to see how all of that relates to quality." So there you have it, a track record of being too successful in recruiting international students have deemed yourself a dodgy provider. According to the Education Department, yes you are. In setting up this formula to judge dodginess, it was discovered that the department did not consult with a single provider before drafting this quality and integrity bill, as Senator Faruqi uncovered.
"You haven't consulted, though, with a single provider whilst setting up this methodology. Not a single provider, not a single private provider, and not a single university. Did you consult with anyone in the sector in developing this formula?"
To that, the Education Department dropped the bombshell and said no. Next, it was the Immigration Department's time to be questioned. Senator Faruqi said,
To me, it's been pretty clear from the beginning that this bill is a migration bill, and literally everyone that I've asked this question during the last 4 days of these hearings has said exactly the same, that the caps have very little to do with improving any educational outcomes.
To this, the immigration bureaucrat replied, "It is a bill that has been crafted through our colleagues in the Department of Education. As with many different departments, will contribute information, statistics, etc., but is definitely not a bill from the Department of Home Affairs or sponsored by us." A little hard to believe, isn't it? In fact, it seems lately that Jason Clare has been a de facto immigration minister, saying more about immigration matters in the media than the current immigration minister, Tony Burke, and his 2 assistant ministers. In the end, after all the elusive answers from the Treasury, the Education Department, and the Department of Immigration, it was clear to see the Senate inquiry's frustrations boil over.
I don't know if I'm living in a parallel universe here. Here's this bill put forward which doesn't do anything that it's purported to do. Why are we discussing this bill? We have no modelling on how many jobs will be lost, and universities are telling us it will be thousands. Private providers are telling us they will lose their livelihoods. There has been no research done on that, nothing on the impact. Why has this bill been brought forward? Is it just because the government is pushing it through? Every single thing that we've heard is that this is a terrible, reckless bill.
So, do these revelations from the Senate inquiry mean this student cap bill will even be passed into law? It would seem, as far as the Greens are concerned, it will have no chance. Will the Liberal Party then back it to override the Greens? Well, publicly they want to be seen as reducing migration numbers, but in the end they too may call it too reckless to support. This could be a tactical manoeuvre to leave the Labour Party with egg all over their faces for creating such disruption within a vital economic component of our economy. They could label it a bill that lacks integrity in terms of what it is actually trying to achieve. Recent Administrative Appeals Tribunal figures show the number of international students who have lodged reviews on their student visa refusals has skyrocketed. From the 1st of July this year till the end of August, just 2 months, 4,727 appeals were lodged for applications that had been refused. That's 2,363.5 applications a month. This figure dwarfs the 7,640 applications lodged for the entire period from the 1st of July 2023 until the end of May 2024, a total of 11 months, which had about 700 appeals lodged a month. This means the number of active cases piled up to be processed for student visa refusals as of the end of August this year was a staggering 15,184, which will take a very long time to process. In addition, many of these refused applications will end up clogging the federal courts. Remember, only students in Australia can appeal for a student visa refusal. In doing so, they gain a bridging visa to stay here while that appeal continues, including going on to the federal court. So why is there a massive increase in student visa refusals? Well, the harsh implementation of the genuine student requirement is the only obvious answer. This government has been so hell-bent on removing international students from Australia, including denying thousands of their rights to apply for the 485 graduate visa simply because they're over 35 years of age, has created this inevitable problem. The worst part of this story is that many of these visa applicants who have been refused are indeed genuine students, and by forcing them into the appeal process is just clogging up Australia's legal system and costing the taxpayers a great deal of money. Despite Direction 109 making a brief appearance on the Immigration Department's website, it is still yet to surface as an official document. As we covered previously, Direction 109 is all about introducing the priority processing arrangements for the construction industry. This idea is, no doubt, to speed up the recruitment of the skilled individuals we need so desperately at the moment. It's been 2 weeks now since we reported on its existence, so why isn't it already in play? Is it simply because the new Immigration Minister Tony Burke has too many things to do with the Department of Home Affairs dominating his attention, and that his 2 assistant ministers don't have the power to sign off on it? It's been another fascinating week in the world of migration in Australia. You must remember that this Student Cap Bill is one of the most important pieces of legislation to come before the Parliament for a number of years. If it passes, the devastation caused to the education industry will be irreversible. The benefits of over 2 decades of careful growth will be lost. Clearly, the government has no idea of the impact it is prepared to unleash upon the Australian community. Remember, if you need help, we are always here. You can book a time by visiting our website, or if you need an appointment earlier, just pick up the phone and we will see if we can fit you in. Support this channel by sharing the videos around to as many as your friends and colleagues who may be interested. As always, take care out there and I will see you next time. So, bye for now.